Welcome to the Beyond Corona Film Festival. This is Addyson Bednar, director. And Addison, I want you to talk about the inspiration for your different films. One's animation and one is live action. Would you mind describing like maybe what your main passions are if you want to get into animation or if you want to do both?
So thank you for having me, first of all. I really
Of course.
appreciate it. Super exciting. Um, the main thing that I want to do is write and direct. I just love narrating stories and then directing them as I see them when I'm writing. Um, I'd never thought of animating before, but it's something that I wanted to try. So this was the first product of me trying animating, and it was I feel like it turned out how I wanted it to. Not as good, of course. I'm no professional illustrator, but it turned out better than I had imagined. And I think that was the perfect medium for the story that I was trying to tell. And I'm just glad that I kind of took that risk of possibly having a awful animation to see if I could even do it.
Oh, definitely. It's always worth uh, experimenting and figuring out what you want to do. And I will say, like, I loved it. It wasn't like a rough feel. It was like a very homemade feel. I mean that in a nice way. Like it just, it was original and beautiful, and like the words carried the story. So I mean, I thought it was great. And then you also did a live action film,
Hmm.
Two Ships. And was it based on maybe a breakup or a separation, or was it autobiographical, or was it like just a story idea you had?
So I still am a college student, and these kind of one night stands seem to be super common just in the whole college environment. And I had an experience. It is based off a night that I had where it wasn't people using each other physically to fill a hole that way. It was more of using somebody emotionally. So you might be lonely, but you're not alone. And in that moment, it's just two lonely people being lonely together. And I really wanted to kind of show that this environment in college, and I don't know if it's just my generation or if it's like this for everyone at this age, but the desperation to connect with somebody, whether that be physical or emotional, I wanted to convey that because it might seem charming at first that, oh, they're not doing anything, it's wholesome, but on a deeper level it's really sad that they have to, use each other at all, and find fulfillment within one another when they can't find it in themselves.
I was searching around for like your other credits, and I noticed you were an assistant director on one particular film, 100 Short. And maybe like if you want to talk about like just building experience in film and like all the things like you're doing to work your way up, like whether it be an assistant director or if there were other positions you did like sound or editing, or just if you, I know you want to be like a writer director, but do you want to talk about like just like working your way up?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Starting out with film, I kind of had the sense that I did want to write and direct at first, but I feel like everybody kind of has that little like, maybe I want to do this, maybe I want to do that. But I dove in to almost every single crew position offered through friends' films, local films, doing sound, cinematography, assistant directing. And through that, and observing how other people on set are with their roles, I kind of could figure out like what I favored. So assistant directing for my friend's short, 100 Short, um, it's really fun to see how all the pieces fit together and to help him get to that final product of what he wants. but also taking that experience, not only for that specific crew role, but to see how other people perform their roles and kind of take bits and pieces of like what they did well, what they could improve on. But I'm in school for film specifically, so we have specified classes for production design or sound. And I have really enjoyed each of them, and I could picture myself doing any number of crew positions, but definitely favor the writing directing aspect.
Oh, that's great. So were you an assistant director before you directed your own films, or?
Yeah, I was.
Okay.
I kind of dabbled in all the crew positions before I felt confident
Oh,
enough to just like take hold of myself. And it's interesting because in my class specifically, there aren't many females
all
to
right.
film. So first of all, that's a little intimidating, but no females in my class have gone out and made their own films. So I really wanted to at least start that and start there and have something to go off of, helping other people, but also having my own stuff.
Great. And that was actually one of the categories when Beyond Corona Film Festival was started. I wanted to encourage as many women film directors to submit. I know it's really disproportionate, but I would encourage you to watch as many films by female directors as you can. I do that constantly. I always seek out new talent by women, even since the silent film days, like some of the first women, or some of the first filmmakers were women, like Alice Guy from France. And then like today, there are a ton of women who direct, but it's just like they need the opportunity, they need the experience, which they don't always get. And then, it's really important to hear the voices of women, people of color, people from all around the world. So I definitely, I see that you took the opportunity to make your own films, and that's so important. Just keep going, because we need voices like yours. And definitely there are opportunities for women. You just have to keep pushing, and maybe even pushing harder than men, because oftentimes people will just see what's in front of them, see their peers, and just like hire them in. So anyway, just keep going. You're doing great. You're like doing everything you should be doing. And I'm glad that you submitted 2 films to our festival, and both were great and both were worthy.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The only thing I want to add is specifically about Baths Bring Out the Best in Me, the animation.
Yes.
Um, when I did that animation, I knew that I wanted to do a story on this sad old man. I didn't know exactly what, but I took a look in the mirror and at my family about mental illness specifically and how it affects the older generations, because I feel like it's not talked about as much. And I spoke with a couple of my relatives who do have mental illness and PTSD, dementia, and how that affects them waking up in the morning and getting out of bed. And the biggest thing that they could say is they've already lived their life and they already have all the memories that they need. So what's the point in continuing? And I wanted to capture that feeling of kind of hopelessness and reaching the end, but then having the rush and the flood of all the memories, good and bad, because I mean that's what life is. It's all good and bad memories, and having that ground you back to complete your life and to not end it early or take anything for granted. But I really wanted to depict that specifically because I see that a lot in my family, and I'm sure many other relatives of whoever else. I know that there's struggle there, and I wanted to show that visually.
Oh, definitely. Even in the times of the coronavirus and the pandemic, have you noticed how has that inspired you as a filmmaker, or how has that constricted you or freed you?
So at first I was like, I have so much time to create now. But I realized that having way too much time to do things is not good for me because I'll just get overwhelmed and I need like a tight, this is this is the schedule, this is what we're sticking to, projects here, projects there, and all of a sudden there's no projects at all to work on because we're all quarantined. So
Yeah.
that kind of made me reevaluate how I can create stories, and that's kind of where the animation took off because I could do that all on my own. But now that we're kind of getting back into it and we can work on productions again, I feel like a fire has really been lit in me to just get stuff done and to do it well and to just take risks because before I felt a little bit cautious and quarantine might have like woken something up in me that it's time to get going and it's time to make what you want to make.
Exactly. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.